Good morning. This is Ron Brown. It's Saturday morning, June 24th, 2023. This is a weekend report, but I'm doing it in conjunction with this webinar series that I've been doing that's available for anybody to watch. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the markets this week and also talk about some user smart groups that I've created and just take a look at some performance things and so on. As usual, I need to point out my standard risk disclaimer. Any stock, index, or ETF mentioned in this presentation is not a recommendation to buy or sell. All trading strategies are used at your own risk. Now for this presentation, I'm going to use a little higher magnification on my screen. I won't be able to get as much on my screen, but I think it makes for a better video. The symbols are a lot easier to see, so I'll go ahead and experiment with that. I did this for the last webinar, and it seemed to produce a pretty high quality video. So where I am, by the way, I'm going to be using the charts, views, and so on, combos that I'm modifying for the webinar series, and these will be released to all Insider Club members at the completion of the webinar series. I call it an evolutionary webinar series because I'm making a lot of changes as I go along, and I'm not going to release them to everybody until they're finished. Those of you who have paid to have access to the files while I develop them, you get them whenever they're updated. And there is another update today. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to look at the market very quickly. I'm right here in my designer. I'm in the Major Markets Plus folder, Major Market Analysis User Groups. I'm going to click through to the warehouse view, and you can see that the magnification is a little bit larger. Now look at this week. It was a very ugly week except for Bitcoin. The Bitcoin Investment Trust over the 5 days, it was actually 4 days, but it's looking back 5. It'll include Monday. It was up 43.2%. So now there's a big push for Bitcoin, but all of the other indexes were down. The stocks suffered the most, down 5.4%, and that's a pretty big fall for the leading group. Now this is 5 days. This is actually from the beginning of the week right here. Up 25.4%, and the SOX is down 4.4% for the week. Normally, this 5-day period would look back Friday to Friday's closes, but since there wasn't trading on last Monday, that kind of messes things up. But you get a feel for the market here. Everything was down. It was just not a good week. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ 100. Over beginning of the week, only down 0.9 for the 100 stocks, but the biggest damage, as I already said, was in the SOX. The small cap 600 stocks were also weak. Since the beginning of the week, down 3.0%. Now I'm going to bring the SOX up here. Here's the daily chart, and this is last Friday. You can see where it closed last Friday, and then here's Monday's open, and it did rally on Thursday, but it fell again on Friday, although this is a very narrow candle, so maybe it's finding support. Let me just quickly drop down through these. I've set this up now so I can just leave the same view in here and move down to or through the groups that are in the Major Markets Plus folder, and you can see that natural gas was up 5.3 yesterday, over a 5-day period up 7.5. But if we look at the chart, this is a stock or a ETF in a long-term downtrend, but it is seeing some buying here. You can see there is a volume pocket pivot here and two of them here, another one here, and we're getting some VPA flags also. Just quickly go up to a plain chart. You can see it better without the moving averages, and you can see heavy volume came in on this day right here on the effort to rise. So there is some buying off of the low. If I use the alternate A key and draw from the low to the current close, this is up 29, if you look down here at the bottom, 29.4% over that time period. I just brought my drawing tools up, so let me point this out to you. 29.4 over 15 periods. That's quite a move. I'm going to get rid of this now. And let's just go down here. The ultra short UVXY was up as the market was falling, which you would expect. The TLT was up 0.3, and if it's going up, and look at the week over here, the weekly chart, that trades inversely to rates, so the assumption is, I suppose, that rates are not going to continue to go up. But as we look down this list, you can see that most of these ETFs were down. Now, I'm going to quickly go to the broad market indices. You can see that they were all down for the week. These are indexes created by HGSI. Major market indexes, everything was down for the week, red week. Sectors, everything was down yesterday in the beginning of the week and the 5-day. HGSI industries, you can see there were some that were up, especially retailing, metal services. Cruise lines continue to go up. Home builders were up for the week. Home builders are really strong. There's obviously a need for more home building, so they continue to move higher. I'm going to drop down to the sector ETFs, and you can see that they were all down yesterday. These are the spiders, and over 5 days they were all down. So just a bad 4 or 5 days, with the exception of Thursday where it bounced. But as I pointed out in my chart, the NASDAQ chart, it was really deceptive because the internals were close to 2-to-1 negative on an up market day for the comp. Now the groups that, where I pointed out the SmartGroups last week, and they did not do well at all this week, which you would expect since the market was so poor. And I'm going to get out of the market analysis and go up to my non-index groups. Now I'm saving them, and I've added a couple new SmartGroups today too, which I'm going to start tracking, but it's in folder number 13. These are the instant watch lists that I talked about last weekend. I was going to track them in OneNote, but I think there's a better way to do it just by using HGSI, and I'm going to show you that. So these are from the 16th, the two that I talked about last weekend, and then I saved them every day this week. And now I am going to show you a couple of SmartGroups which are available to everyone who's downloading the add-on file, the Insider Club, both in the January add-on and in the webinar add-on. But let's take a look at these two. Now what I'm going to do is go up here to the group performance analysis, the $sign, and I'm going to choose the groups. I've already chosen them, but I want to point out what I'm doing here. I chose both groups from the 16th, which would be a week ago, Friday. And since the market was closed on Monday, I used the opening price on Tuesday, right here, the opening price, and the closing price on Friday, and I'm comparing to the S&P 500, and you can see what happened. Everything was down for the week, And these stocks were all down. Well, not all down. Out of the instant watch list, the fan up with 3 and the 6 cross after the pullback, only 4 of them gained and 20 lost, and that still outperformed the S&P, slightly down minus 0.83 compared to minus 0.97. Now the other group, the instant watch list with a fan up but setting up after a pullback, that performed worse. So a lot of those stocks never got out of the gate. So you can see that in the fan up 3-6 cross, MicroStrategy was a leading stock. This is closely tied to Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin goes up, when Bitcoin goes down, it goes down. It was up 9.7 for the week. Then Liquidia, Pampa Energia, and Bellis Health. I think this one actually is not trading anymore. I should have taken that one out. But it's in there now. I just want to point out that it was not a good week for these stocks. Medical devices, this one was all the way down 16.46. Now, scrolling down to the bottom here, this group didn't do as well, but there were more winners than losers. If I go up here, you can see there were 9 gainers and 16 losers, but some of the losers lost, or more of the losers lost a little more than the gainers, or the gainers didn't gain as much. I don't know without really studying it, but you can see that some of these did okay. Riot, I don't know how to pronounce the pharmacy. Radnet, Mueller. Let's take a look at Riot, which is tied to Bitcoin, also up 9.2. And then let's take a look at Radnet. Okay, this is Riot. So you can see, let's see, here is the 16th, no, right here is the 16th. So over this 4-day period, it gapped open, traded up, and really kind of stalled out after this big move, and it's into the resistance area right here. Let's look at the weekly chart. Weekly chart is not going anywhere right now, but that was one of the stocks that was up for the week. Let's see if I can locate that HTML page. And the other one I'm going to look at is RDNT. It had a nice chart, I believe. And I'm going to drop down to my number 2 chart here, which has the fan and so on. And this was the 16th right here. Actually, right here was the 16th last Friday. So it gapped open on Monday, traded down, and then there was a low volume test and a confirmation of that test. Some people call this the J flag, and it started moving up. This was one of the better looking stocks according to the charts. You can see the weekly chart is also very strong on this, with a series of higher highs and higher lows. Now I'm going to be tracking these smart groups every week, or putting them in the folder, and then I can go back and take a look at these, compare them to whatever the current date is, and see how they performed. But like I said, I've also added a couple of new smart groups today. One is end of day VPA flag. There's a VPA flag and the fan is up. And this one has a VPA flag, fan up, but also the long-term trend is up. By the long-term trend, I mean the VPA trend. So let's just go in to this. I'm going to go down to my number 1 folder. I'm going to go to the scorecard end of day. And these are the stocks which are coming up in today's Smart Group. Now this is VPA flag fan up. And if I scroll over here to the right, this represents the VPA best fit long trend, and notice that there are 4 of them where the long-term trend is down. So if I bring this up and maximize this, if you look right here, you can see the best fit long trend. Let me go back to here. It's down for the day. There's 4 of them that are down, but the other requirements for the filter are setting up. Here's a low volume test and a confirmation of this test. Now if I drop down, so the long-term trend is up. Now when I scroll over here, notice that every one of these stocks, the long-term trend is up. So we're going to have some different stocks. I just want to compare the two at the end of the week. Now there is, I'm going to go into the designer. This is something you can do if you want to. Here's the 2 groups right here. If I go to my File menu and select Compare Groups, here's the end of day VPA flag long-term trend up. Now let me locate the other group, just the fan up. So what I'm doing is I'm comparing the stocks in these new smart groups. I'll click on OK. And this brings up a report. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but this is what's only in the end of day VPA flag fan up, long-term trend up. Only these stocks appeared in that, and only in the VPA flag up, fan up, these are the stocks that are only in this group and not in this group. And in both groups, these are the stocks that are appearing in both of these groups. So looking up the top, there are 13 only in one group and 13 only in another group and 12 in both groups. So we're going to look at this next Saturday and see how these did, and see if one smart group performed better than the other. Now, of course, if the market is really bad again this week, they may not do well at all. But let's just take a quick look at some of these before I end this video. I'm just going to look at the end of day VPA fan up stocks without the long-term trend up. And I'll just bring this up so we can get a look at it. Now this was a test, and you can see this stock has already broken past resistance. Let's look at the weekly chart. Strong the past couple of weeks. I'm just going to scroll down through some of these. Here's Adobe. You can see here is the VPA flag. If this holds and goes up, this would be a good candidate for a bullish debit spread. This is a stock which has made a pretty good run already. You can see here is the effort to rise. Now let's go back and look and see where this turned positive on the 3 and the 6. It looks like it was right here. Right in here on this effort to rise. So this probably would have appeared through one of these scans on that day. Illinois Toolworks is an expensive stock. You can see it's pulled back, but here's a bullish flag. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, here's a stock that is in a bullish mode, and it has been for quite some time. Now, I'm not looking for crossovers with these scans. I may build a smart group where I incorporate the VPA and the crossovers, but for this week, I'm not doing that. Here's a nice setup here. This is IAS. You can see a gap down. Here's a test. And here's a confirmation that test with an effort to rise. We'll see how this does next week. Interactive brokers. I really don't like this because it isn't going anywhere, and there's a lot of resistance to the left here. Let's take a quick look at the weekly chart. You can see that there's a lot of congestion there, but hit the wrong thing here. Let me get back through this group here. I'm going to look at one more, and we'll look at it next week. Okay, so here's a stock that's on the move. Here is the impulse. Here's the reaction, and it's setting up again. So there are some good-looking stocks in this Smart Group. Let's look at some other information here. You can see the crossover on these. A lot of these stocks was several days ago, but here Illinois Tool Works has pulled back. These have pulled back, but a lot of them are old signals. Here's Adobe again. You can see it's been, I'm sorry, this is not Adobe. Verity, okay. But this is an old signal. But still, it keeps going up. The 3 continues to be above the 6. And it looks like it wants to go higher. So like I said, I'm not looking for crossovers right here in the filter, but you can look for crossovers in the warehouse, and also look at the relative strength. And of course, see what the industry group is doing. Now this is the one with the long-term trend is up, but look at all of these that have turned negative. These are all positive. These have pulled back. So this particular scan is looking for stocks. Some of the stocks that have pulled back. The 3 is below the 6 on these, and on these in this column, the VPOC is negative. But here is one, that IAS that I just looked at. Let's look at Magnite. The 3 is below the 6, but the VPOC has turned positive today. You can see it turn, or Friday, you can see that, but the 3 is below the 6, setting up nicely. Okay, that's it for this week. If you go ahead and install the add-on, those of you in the Insider Club, you're going to find these in the, if I can open this, look in the add-on folder. They're grouped right in here under the 2 that I put in last week. So we're going to see how these work going forward. The ultimate goal, obviously, is to find scans which give us good setups without spending a whole bunch of time prospecting. Thanks for listening. Have a good week, and let's hope the market doesn't fall apart this week.